minute or two, Trustee Musa has to use the restroom. So calm down, sit in your chair and relax. Do you want to wait for her? Yeah. Well, somebody talk. This feels really uncomfortable here. I'll pass on that one, Dawn.
Not enough time.
All set?
Yes, thank you.
Welcome, everyone, to the January 15th regular general Millbrae Elementary. December 15th. Wow, I'm jumping ahead of everyone. December 15th general meeting of the Millbrae Elementary School District. And we're going to stand now for the flag salute. Trustee Ravello in the back audience, could you lead us with the flag, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, announcements. This meeting is being televised and recorded for the transcription of the minutes. At this time, speakers wishing to address the board this evening should turn in the completed speaker card to the board secretary. We'll now report on action taken in closed session by the board secretary. Trustee Ferrario?
No action was taken.
No action was taken. Thank you. Okay, the approval of the agenda, December 15th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Trustee Fema,
Second.
second by Trustee Musa. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, board reorganization. Wow, they only give me like a minute here. Board of Trustee comments to outgoing President Frank Barbaro. Do I have to leave the room? You sure?
No, you have to be in the room because
For general purposes, you should leave it.
For the roasting?
Yeah.
there's no roasting
No roast
tonight.
tonight?
No, we're going to be really nice.
All right.
Oh,
Thank you
there's,
very much for all of that. Thank you.
you know what? Yeah, I'll keep it. Sure, I got my thing on. It came out, you're right, it came out too quick. I was expecting some other stuff on the agenda to go on, but, well, anyway, Frank, where do I start? First of all, thank you for your leadership. Being president, being on the board, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment, a lot of everyday decisions, weekly, and so I just want to say thank you for your time, for your heart that you care so much about Millbrae and Millbrae kids. So I do want to say that because, you know, every time you hear Frank Barbaro, you hear about his heart for Millbrae, and whether it's here, the Lions, Spring Valley, PTA, of all the years that I've known you. You've always been like, you know, what can we do better for Millbrae kids? So I just want to say thank you for that. And so it's been fun working you as president. You're wonderful. It's easier. Anytime a thought comes to mind, you know, you're always willing to hear and listen, whether it's us or the board or the community. So you're always listening and always taking in ideas for us to move forward. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership and enjoy your next year off as just a trustee, so you don't have to be the one running the meeting. So yes,
Thank you, Maggie.
you're welcome.
Sure. Lynn.
So Frankie, as I always call you, Frankie, we sure go back a long way. You and Dawn were my first two trustees to welcome me on the school board quite a few years ago. We've worked together on a variety of projects and have spent hours discussing ways to support our amazing students and staff. We have not always agreed, but respected our differences and moved on to make sure our decisions reflected the best interests of our students. As our board president, this past year you've encountered many challenges. You've spent an enormous number of hours working with Superintendent French on issues, agendas, and thank you for your time, patience, and dedication to our district. Your generosity is amazing and means the world to all of us. It takes the dedication of committed volunteer leaders like yourself to empower the Millbrae School District to provide the best education possible for our students. Your commitment to our community is evident in everything that you do. You have a huge heart, and I love your ability to always laugh at yourself and to laugh with all the rest of us. Your sense of humor has been greatly appreciated, more than you'll ever know. Your leadership in the Millbrae School Board this year is greatly appreciated, so thank you, Frank. Your contributions have made a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Frank, I think you are the longest serving board member of the Millbrae School District, and I think the only one that was actually elected.
It's true.
But in any case, I just wanted to thank you for your leadership. It's always been clear that your heart and soul is with the schools and with the kids, and you always lead with your heart. And I just wanted to thank you for all of that. We all know that being on the board is a big time commitment, and the president has many more additional duties. And beyond that, in addition to your duties as the president, you're always there helping out, whether it's barbecuing hot dogs and hamburgers or it's flipping pancakes at the breakfast. You're there always to lend a helping hand, and you're always there for our kids. So I just wanted to thank you, and I also wanted to say that I appreciated your guidance as the newest member of the board from you as the president and showing me the way. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
I got nothing. No. Every school year brings different challenges, sometimes the same challenges, and Frank has helped meet the needs of our school community and the city for 14 plus years. It's unbelievable. 15 years, sorry. I stuttered. And he's been both a trustee and a board president several times. He is, I think we'd agree, he's the godfather of this group. He's really the godfather. And he always keeps an eye out for his family, which includes our schools and anything that benefits the children. He's stepping down from the presidency, but not away from the board. And for that, we're grateful. Thank you, Frank, for your continued common sense, your common courtesy, your community connection, and your consistency, the big C's for you. So thanks for everything you contribute, and we look forward to working together in the future.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Board reorganization. Board of Trustees comments on, okay, we passed that. Nomination and election of 2023 President of the Millbrae School District, Board of Trustees. So this is an action item. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to move to elect President Fama for the next year, Trustee Fama as president.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any comments? So we'll take a
Not
vote.
that I can say, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. Take the seat. Okay.
Okay, come down. Okay.
Congratulations.
Where's the best place for us to stand? Over here? Right here. Right here? Okay. Okay. Are you ready? Okay. All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after Sherry.
I, Dennis Fama, do solemnly swear
I, Dennis Fama, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
It says congratulations.
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 Thank you.
How about, do you want to sit right here, or what?
Want me to sit
Or
here?
after? Yeah, sure. Well, actually,
Yes.
I have to swear them in.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay.
You're going to swear? No,
No, you know what I mean. I mean,
You
call.
gotta call them up.
for it,
Yeah, sure.
Call for the vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
he takes over.
Oh, you call for the rest of the vote.
Okay.
Well, thank you for relieving me.
We have to be out of here by midnight, so this. Okay. Thank you.
Good luck, my friend.
I'll get you for this. Okay. Could I borrow your agenda?
Yes.
I
Second
have
page.
your agenda.
Thank you.
We were sharing agenda. So
Okay, we will now entertain the nomination and election of 2023 Vice President for the Board of Trustees. Do I have a nomination from the floor?
I nominate Lynn Ferrario.
We have a nomination. Do I have a second?
I second that.
We have a second by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Sorry. All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after Carter.
I, Lynn Ferrario, do solemnly swear
I, Lynn Ferrario, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I bear true faith and allegiance,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Carter.
Either way. Typically, you would go to where Frank is. And
Yeah.
you would go to where you are. So, yeah.
Can we do this next meeting?
This is Frank's, right? Just Frank's.
Okay, now I'll entertain a nomination for the position of clerk of the board. Do I have a nomination?
I would like to nominate Maggie Musa.
Karen nominates Maggie Musa. Second.
I second.
Lynn Ferrario, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Madam Clerk.
Yay.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after Vice President Ferrario.
Thank you very much. I, Maggie Musa, do solemnly swear
I, Maggie Musa, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, Clerk Musa.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, we now have committee appointments for 2023. And do we vote on this, Deb, or? Yes. Okay. We have nomination for committee appointments. The first is the County Committee on School District Reorganization, and Trustee Dennis Fama and Don Ravello were the alternates, was the alternate this year. Our nomination for this year is Lynn Ferrario and Dennis Fama as alternate. So we need a motion on that. Okay.
I move to approve.
Okay. Second?
Second?
Second, Frank Barbaro. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just a reminder to call for discussion before you vote.
Oh, sorry. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The second committee assignment is for the San Mateo County SBA Legislative Committee. In 2022, Lynn Ferrario filled the role, and the nomination for this year is Maggie Musa. Do we have a second for Maggie?
Need a first.
First.
I move to appoint Maggie Musa to that role.
Second?
Second?
I got Karen first. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The third committee appointment is to the San Mateo County Nominating Committee. Trustee Ravello served in '22, and the nomination this year is for Maggie Musa. Can I have a motion for that?
So moved?
Barbaro moves. Second.
Second.
Lynn Ferrario, second. All those in, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The last one is for, facilities. 2022, Frank Barbaro and Maggie Musa were the representatives on the committee. 2023 nomination, Frank Barbaro and Lynn Ferrario. Can I have a motion on those two candidates?
I motion.
Maggie motions. Karen second, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Final committee assignments for the Budget Committee in 2022, Lynn Ferrario and Karen Chin were our representatives. In 23, the two nominees are Karen Chin and Dennis Fama. May I have a nomination for those characters?
I move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. Our next item on the agenda is a special presentation in recognition of past President Don Ravello. Does any, come on up. Come on up, Don. Come on up here. So I think it's only fair that we be able to roast, that we be able to honor him individually. You can stand there. Don, of course, retired from the board this year, and we're so happy that he could join us tonight to receive the well-deserved recognition that is coming to you. So I'll defer to my colleagues, and we can each give a little memory of Don's service. So Karen, do you want to start?
Don, I just wanted to thank you so much for your sacrifices, your leadership, and your dedication throughout the years. You have tirelessly represented all members of the community, and I've always appreciated your perspective. During your tenure, you guided the district through 3 superintendents, I think, drastic budget cuts after 2008, the 2 bond measures, the first ever parcel tax, the building of the Shea Center, and all of our schools being named a California Distinguished Schools. And you also guided us through the shutting down of our schools through COVID and leading us through the reopening of the schools. So you've tirelessly worked for all of us, and I cannot thank you enough for all of your dedication to this school district. And I thank you, and I wish you and Marcy the very best.
Frank, can I call on you next?
Sure. Wow, 2009. That's when you got on the board. We had 2 open seats. We had 1 person pass away, and we had 1 person resign. So we had 2 open seats. It was Marjorie Luxembourg, our president, Carolyn Shea, a trustee, and myself, the 3 of us. We needed 2 positions. We had the jacuzzi room filled with 17 candidates. 17. Everybody wanted to be on the school board. And so we interviewed everybody. And when Don got up and told us all about himself and spoke, we knew that he was going to be a good fit. We knew he was the right fit. And so we heard all the 17 candidates. We went in the back room, and it was unanimous that Don had to be on the board. We needed Don, somebody like Don on the board that had a really good common sense perspective of things going on in general and really in life, in school, in children. And so we really were excited about it. And Don hit the ground running, really. You really did. And you really brought a really crisp, clean perspective to different issues that we had during the day. You know, and I always enjoyed listening to your perspective and your ideas. And so I really, I miss that. I cherish that. You know, you were definitely a leader with us. I can remember you at Taylor Middle School getting really involved with the music program there, and you really helped lift that program up with a lot of things that we won't talk about, because I could sit here and talk all night long about all the things you did with that music program. You know, and you were even at Disneyland there for a while with the kids, you know, and that was a big deal too. And I'm sure you had a lot of fun being on the board. You know, it's been a lot of years that we served together, you know, and I miss your perspective and your ideas, and your really your gentle touch that you have. So I'm so glad you're here tonight. I'm so glad we could honor you, Don, and I hope we're still friends. I hope we could be friends. Thank you, Don.
Maggie, do you want to go next?
Sure, I can go next. I agree with my colleagues, everything they said. I'm not going to repeat what they said, your history. And I just do want to say thank you for your commitment and your passion and your love for Millbrae and the children again. Speaking of music, I knew you were on the board. We always said hi and everything, but I really didn't get to know you or become friends until you and I went to a Disneyland trip together. We were chaperoning, and I remember after a long day of being with the kids at the park that we met at the bar to just kind of wind down because it's a lot of work. So I really got to know you as a person, as a friend, and I really, from that point, I think like we just connected. And I do appreciate you and your knowledge and the way you think about things, particularly the budget or anything else. I love and miss that part of the board meeting where you're just so sensible and just common sense, and you clarify things to the point that makes everybody understand, or you bring out points that people to break it down. So because sometimes we look at numbers and budgets, it's not easy to understand, but so it's just you try to simplify as much as possible for everyone to understand. So we do really miss you, and I know just because you're not sitting up here, but we see you around downtown, talk. It just, every time we see you, it's like we saw you yesterday. So appreciate your friendship now, and you can always come back and volunteer. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lynn?
Yeah. So Dawn, you and Frank, of course, were my first mentors on the school board when I came around in 2010, I guess, 2010, 2011. And I can just say that I was partly responsible for recommending you as a possible trustee back in the day, and they're not holding that against me, right? Yeah. But I've always been one of your ardent supporters, and can't even imagine, where we would be without your keen eye to the budget. When we had fiscal questions, you were the man. I mean, we could always go to you. I was honored to have known you previously as an amazing volunteer at Lameda Park. I'll never forget all your hard work in our district, not just as a trustee, but as a community volunteer who continues to go the extra mile for our students and to serve all of us so well. I'm humbled by your honesty, your integrity, and I trust you implicitly. And I'm very grateful to call you and Marcy my friends. So thank you, Dawn, for all that you've done and all you continue to do for all of us. Thank you.
I hate it when people say I agree with everything that's been said so far, so I won't say that. I will tell you that Don Ravello, to me, is someone I've always looked up to on the board because, as my colleagues have said, he's very centered, he's very serious, and he's very much committed not only to the board but to the school district and the city of Millbrae. I've known Don for many years, and I'm just in awe of his ability to speak well, to analyze numbers. His financial background has been a real boon to our district, and I miss his friendship at the board level, but our friendship continues in person. In fact, my wife and I were out to dinner twice this week in Millbrae, and both nights we ran into Don and his wife. So I really don't have anything more to say to him tonight. But anyway, we love you so much, and you brought so much to us, and I hope you'll continue to support our school district. Thank you.
Okay, when I first joined the school board, I didn't need any notes. I could speak for hours without any notes. My kids will tell you I could go on and on and on with no notes whatsoever. But today, I need notes. But I do have a public announcement to make. Score of the game is 21-6, 49ers versus the Seahawks. So, you've all said some very, very nice words, and I do really appreciate it. But, I sometimes wonder, not sometimes, I really, frankly, have wondered the last number of weeks why we're doing this. Because I've always felt that as far as a school board member, I was the least valuable person sitting on the board, in my own view. I felt that from day one. I felt that the last day that I served. You folks sitting up there, all of you at the table, all of you out there, you're the ones that mattered as far as I was concerned. I have so much respect for each and every one of you, the work that you've done, your commitment to our community. I was never out there in the community the way you guys have been. Now, in my case, that was more by purpose than anything else, in terms of the way I needed to approach my role on the board. But, for most people, I think, in this community, I would be the least recognized person as a trustee. They would recognize all of you much more closely with the board than they would me. And I think that's appropriate, I always admired and respected anybody that was on the board. I said that the first day, and I say that again today. This is not an easy time to be involved with education. There are so many challenges that not only our school district has, but throughout the country. So, I do appreciate the words, the sentiments. I told Frank when he initially contacted me that I was already considering attending today, and really my only purpose was, at that point in time, was just a simple one. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for what you've done, and I want to wish all of you, on behalf of my family, a very happy Christmas season, and blessings to all of you. It's been an easier year than maybe the year before, but you guys put in all the time, all the effort, and I know how much you guys had to go through. So you deserve, to enjoy really a wonderful holiday season. I wish that for all of you. I did have a couple of other points that I thought I would make, because these are things that if I had continued to serve, today would have been my last day. I would have finished my term. I think this would have been my last meeting in my term. So I did want to acknowledge and thank one last time the people most responsible for my being on the board in the first place and maintaining my relationship and membership on the board. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge Trustee Ferrario. When she was the principal at Lomita, she made the suggestion to my wife, Marcy, that could we have Don come up to the school board one evening and speak in favor of a school bond proposal. My wife, Marcy, to her, she went ahead and made the suggestion to me, and I said, okay, I'll do it. It was for a good cause, and I felt that it was something that needed to be done. So I did. So I want to thank my wife, not only for the suggestion, but she's been my moral compass this whole time, and really an unswerving supporter of my role on the board. So thank you, honey. That same night I did my first presentation at the board. Right afterwards, I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time our departed friend and colleague, Carolyn Shea. And Carolyn took a moment out to personally invite me to apply for one of the vacancies on the board. Which brings us to our friend, Mr. Fema. So, as Dennis said, we've known each other a long time. And I've had the great pleasure and privilege of serving with him multiple terms on the board. And, back in 2018, I'd said, I'm done. We were on vacation on a cruise. I was really hoping that the expiration date for renewing my registration would have ended by the time I got back from the cruise. But I miscalculated by a week. And in that week, Dennis got a hold of me, and he convinced me that it was, a good thing if I would return one more time. And, Dennis, I don't know if I hadn't spoken to you, I probably wouldn't have done it. But, out of respect my admiration for you and our friendship, I came back one more time. So thank you, Dennis. Superintendent French, it's absolutely no secret that I am one of your greatest admirers. To me, you represent what's best in terms of work ethic, professionalism, administrative skill, and integrity. And all those things mean a lot to me, particularly integrity. So many of the issues that we as a city, a state, and a country, they're tied back to integrity. People doing the right thing, wanting to do the right thing, and most of all, most importantly, standing up and actually holding their ground for it. And that is the hardest thing to do. You know, we all want to be liked. We all want to be admired. We want to have sympathy. We want to have empathy. But to actually walk the walk instead of just talking the talk, I learned that lesson some time ago. And it's a hard, hard lesson, particularly for some of us, you know. But it's the way to live, because that's the only way things get better. If we don't stand our ground and hold up for what we think is right, what we know is right, then nothing good will continue to come. So, you know, there were three things that I would have said if this was my final meeting in my trustee comments, as three lessons that I learned while I was on the school board. So, first one was teaching is a profession, but education is a business. Any business requires financial solvency. So, the upcoming state budget, as I think most of you are aware of, we're facing a huge deficit, and that's going to trickle down to the schools. We've always had problems over the last 30 years funding the schools, and when you're talking about a $15 billion hit negative to the state's budget, you know that's going to hit the schools. One way or another, that's going to hit the schools. So, you know, it's our responsibility to make sure that the public is aware, that they're educated and understand the financial challenge. You know, education is not just about books. It takes money to buy books. It takes money to buy the schools. It takes money to pay the teachers. And there's never been enough in the 30 years that I've been associated with the school district for any of that. And our teachers are so deserving of it. Our kids are so deserving of it. We all fight and do our bit for supporting MEF, the PTA, all the other countless social organizations, but it's not enough. You know, there's a fundamental change that has to happen in our state so that our schools are adequately and consistently funded. And if you hear proposals on Capitol Hill or Sacramento about that, those are things to look at and see if we can really support it, because that's the only way our education standard in this country will come back up. It's not going to come up if we do this with our funding of our schools. You know, teachers have a right to a paycheck, and I don't think they should have to go through year after year wondering if they're going to get paid and paid on a timely basis. That's not right. So, along those lines, lesson number 2, board members as leaders have a responsibility to do what's right and with objectivity. And I touched on this a moment ago with Superintendent French. You know, we've had to spend a lot of time and money over the last several years correcting things that if they'd been done right the first time around, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's money that could have gone to our kids, to our schools, to our teachers. Okay? That's a dollars and cents example of doing the right thing, why we need to do the right thing, and the price that's paid just in dollars. And that's not to say, that doesn't even talk about what happens to our kids when something isn't dealt with the way it should have been the very first day. We can't turn a blind eye to this stuff. And that's part of the responsibility of the school board. But parents, communities, they have to support the school board when they want to call somebody accountable. Without accountability, you don't have integrity, you don't have progress. You've got to have accountability. Last but not least, public education. It's the great equalizer, okay? Most of us in the room, we are byproducts of the public education system. Regardless of our social status, ethnicity, gender. Publication has given us the ability to achieve and succeed. Everybody in this country deserves that right. But if our public education system is faltering, who are we cheating? We're cheating our kids, but also our country and our country's legacy. We need strong education to keep not only our economy strong, but our country strong. It's educated people that will help us make the right decisions and guide us going forward. So, the great equalizer needs to be protected, needs to be supported. And that's why I admire all of you guys so much, because that's what you do. You work to protect, you work to support. So I'm going to close by saying, thanks for listening to me this one last time. I probably overstayed my welcome, as my kids would say, but I do honestly mean what I say. I'm so glad that all of you are here, and you really didn't have to, give me any comments. I just wanted the opportunity to say thank you for all you guys continue to do. Merry Christmas to you guys.
Okay.
Yes, please. Did you want to join?
Yeah.
Good.
Did you all want to come down? No. You're sure? Okay. Okay. So we want to say thank you to you, Dawn, and I'm gonna. I'm hoping you're going to stay for a couple minutes. I'm reserving my comments for you and for Frank during superintendent's update. But we have for you tonight just a certificate in recognition of the honor of your service as Millbrae School Board President, December 20th, 2020 to December 2021. That does not mention all of the years of service outside of the presidency. I, of course, just had the honor of 1 year with you, well, as president. And I'm going to borrow Dennis's word. I don't know that I've ever had the opportunity to work with such a centered human being that's about getting down to business and doing the right thing for kids. And we really appreciate that about you. So thank you so much. And this is for you on behalf of the board. And I'm going to hand this over to
thank
President
you.
Fama.
Well, Don, everything you said was true except the first part, that you were sort of irrelevant on the board. You felt like you were less than the rest of us, and I can tell you, you were among the greatest of all of us. And because you were a quiet leader, you didn't get the headlines. You didn't seek the headlines. But I can tell you that you've had a tremendous effect on all the board members and on the district and all the neighborhoods that you've served as a trustee. And I don't want you to ever forget that and take that out of your lexicon, that you were not really relevant to what we're doing, because you are. God bless you.
If I may, I'm going to take the liberty of thanking Marcy and Don's family. I can't even imagine. I guess I can, because I know how many times Don and I spoke during his presidency, that when the phone rang and it was me, Marcy was like, oh, please, hang up. So thank you to Don's family for your sacrifice over the years, because while he was here doing all of the things for Millbrae and the community and for, of course, his own family, but in such a great way, it took away from your time. And we greatly appreciate that. So I can only imagine what that looked like exponentially, knowing the time that I had the opportunity to spend with Don. So thank you so much to the Ravello family.
Okay, I think we'll take a brief break so that we can say hello to friends in the audience and wish you well. So let's take a 5-minute break.
I'm right.
Well, thank you very much. That was a wonderful ceremony and a lot to be grateful for here. Now I'm going to ask for any public comments. Speakers wishing to address the board on items on the agenda may complete speakers' cards and submit them to the board secretary. Speakers addressing specific items on the agenda will have the opportunity to address the board at the time of the agenda item in the meeting. If you're addressing the board on a non-agenda item, please be aware that the provisions of the Brown Act prohibit the board from acting or discussing such matters at the meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person per topic. Do we have any comments from the MEA, from the CSEA, from the MEF, members of the community? Okay, very good. We'll move on now to the superintendent update. Superintendent?
Thank you, President Fema. I want to begin, should I use this one? I'm going to use this one. I'd like to begin, in case the Ravello family is needing to go home. I wanted to just expand a little bit and thank Dawn so very much once again for your service, not only to Millbrae Elementary School District, to its students, to its staff, and to its community, but to myself. I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to get to know you in the seat of a trustee and as a president. I think to hear Dennis call you a quiet leader it radiated with me because you are so humble in your approach and so pragmatic in your thinking, and just your process and your perspective and your commitment is unyielding. And I just know that it was such an incredible opportunity. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your service and for the opportunity to learn from you in such a robust manner in all of our conversations, and giving me such historical perspective about Millbrae and how to learn to serve better here. So thank you, Dawn. We miss you tremendously, but I know where to find you some nights if I want to chat. So, and I look forward to those times that I run into you and your lovely wife. It's very fun. So thank you. And I wish you all the very, very best and a very Merry Christmas. Thanks again. And then I'm going to turn to the beginning of the meeting, President Barbaro, for your service to, of course, your colleagues on the board. But to us as a cabinet, I know I'm going to speak on everyone's behalf. We just enjoy you and your presence so very much, from your humor to your stories, to something that I say so often in front of you, and something that I say so often when you're not around, is that you bleed Millbrae. I shared this at the parcel tax kickoff, that it was so much about my interview in Millbrae that was so memorable. But I just remember listening to you talk about Millbrae and how excited you were about the community and the kids and the families and the board, your colleagues, that I just thought, who would ever not want to work in a place like this? I felt as though, I remember you saying that in Millbrae, the schools are so important that each of us are super popular at Trader Joe's. I remember you telling me about our time at Trader Joe's and how we'd be stopped and spoken to. And you're right. Now that COVID's over and or COVID is a little bit behind us, it is true that I'm stopped and spoken to and getting to know people on the level that you explained would happen in my interview those years ago. So I have just enjoyed working with you as president. You have such energy and enthusiasm and excitement around all things Millbrae. And I'm going to miss working with you, but I know that you're still just a phone call away. So I want to thank you. And on behalf of the board, I would like to present to you a certificate of recognition in honor of your service as our president from December 2021 to December 2022. And I think we'll ask Dennis to stand to take a photograph.
Sure.
And this is for you as well.
Thank you.
Does the whole board want to get in the photograph with our, yes. Okay, let's do that. Can you see the photographer?
You want Frank in it or just us?
I think we should have Frank. For sure we want Frank. Oh, let me get it.
Those photos will be available at the end of the month. $5.
And I know that it's been a lot of presentation tonight, and we have folks here to present, so I want to be short on my update. Mostly, I just want to thank everybody for their service at the beginning of this year as we wrap up 2022. I want to thank the people around this table for being truly, truly, truly the best cabinet I've ever had the opportunity to serve with. Not only do we do great work together, but we have a lot of fun. And I think what makes us so special is that we couldn't be more different. But in service to children and community, that's what really ensures that we're doing the very best work we can. Certainly not infallible or perfect, but reflective enough to know that we can get better every single day. I want to thank our principals of our schools. The buck stops with the principals. I've said it so often. It is the hardest job in a school district, and I am so indebted to their efforts each and every day for doing the very best that they can and for doing the right thing for the kids of Millbrae. And sometimes doing the right thing isn't the easiest thing, but we ensure that we keep showing up every day for the students in our community, and I want to thank our principals for that. I want to thank our teachers, our classified staff, and this year I want to thank all of our contractors as well. We have so many contractors who are in service to our children every day, and we're so grateful for the opportunity to hire folks to get them in front of our children to ensure that learning continues in what we know is one of the greatest staffing shortages we've ever faced in education. I'd like to also thank MEA, MEA of course, and CSCA, our union partners. We have just built such a great relationship, and even in times when we don't agree, we have robust conversations that continue to be centered around kids. And I'm really grateful for their commitment to the work that we do each and every day. I would like to thank MEF. I would like to thank MCF. I would like to thank the Rotary and Lions and all of our partners. In addition to what I said about Trustee Barbaro, I just have never had the honor of serving in a community that is so enveloped with partnerships. And the partnerships are not just about raising money for kids and schools. It's about coming alongside kids, about loving kids, about providing for children when they cannot otherwise be provided for. And it is such an honor to be a part of that. And so I want to thank all of our partners. And most importantly, I want to wish you all a very happy holiday season. It's hard to believe that it's already upon us. I feel like we start in August and we blink and it's this time of year. So many blessings to all of you and to your families. And we will look forward to seeing you in January 2023. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Communications. Does anyone wish to speak? Frank, do you have anything to say?
Sure.
Thank you, Frank.
You know I'm not going to pass that up. Well, it was a really good year for me as board chair, my fourth time. And I got to tell you that every year that we were on the board, we had ups and downs and all arounds. But we got through it because we teamworked everything. It was team, complete team. It wasn't one individual, two individuals, or three. It was a whole team, and the team started at the top, and it went down, all the way down the line, all teamwork. And so that's what I learned being on the school board. And it was a real pleasure to work with everybody this year, one-on-one, as the board chair. I really cherish that. My family could care less. My friends could care less. They say, "Oh, good for you. You're on the board. You're president. Oh, good for you." But it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me to be the board president of the Millbrae School District. I was very proud to hold that title for a year. And so I just want to thank the whole team, people that are here right now tonight, and everybody else that's not here or maybe watching, because without everybody together with one cause for our kids in Millbrae, we wouldn't be where we're at. And I think we are in a good spot. Even though there's going to be ups and downs, we'll get through it all. So thank you for letting me be on the board and letting me be the board president for a year.
Anyone else?
Yeah, sure. Can I say something? First of all, last weekend we had the MEF boutique, the holiday boutique, and I just want to say what a wonderful event. A lot of great vendors. I couldn't stop. I spent so much money. I had to leave. Like I had to rush, get myself out of there because it was just a lot of great things. So I just do want to say thank you to all of our volunteers, parents, teachers, staff, anybody that was involved into that, putting that event on together. It was a success. I mean, it just made me happy. So it just made me feel like it's the holidays again. So again, thank you for all of that. And I hope it's not about raising money, that event. It was about just bringing the community together. So I just really enjoyed that. And because this is our last meeting for the year, I do want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to our families that work hard as volunteers, our children that work hard to be, do the best that they could, and our principals, and our staff, classified, certificated, but again, mainly our parents that really work. They have full-time jobs, they work, they're parents, and they go above and beyond with the PTAs and MEFs and make sure that they fundraise, they put on activities, family events for the benefit of their children. So I really wanted to say enjoy your 2 weeks off with your families and your children. Enjoy every minute because, you know what? Life's too short and you don't know what happens tomorrow, so enjoy today. So, and I know it's hard dealing with young kids at home sometimes, but those are the memories you'll have when they go off to college. And so, so have a good break and we'll see you in January 2023. And just one more thing, Trustee Fema, looking forward to working with you as our incoming president. Very excited to see what we can do as a team together with your leadership, how we can improve our education and experience for our children. So thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Anyone else?
As Trustee Fema has mentioned before about, you hate to say I agree with my colleagues, but, the truth is, I agree so much with Trustee Musa and her appreciation of everybody in our school district for all the work they do, and especially our students and our parents for entrusting us to their kids, for their kids, and letting us know and working with us to make sure we can do the best for our students. The MEF Holiday Boutique was wonderful. The hours that had to go into organizing that, every school was represented. It was really a beautiful way to start the season. So thank you to MEF for going above and beyond for our foundation. The other thing is there have been gift cards going out to families in our district. The Millbrae Community Foundation and our Lions Club, they gift certain families at school sites upon recommendation from our principals of families that can use an extra boost over the holiday. And I was privileged to be able to visit about 10 homes. And it is heartwarming to be able to give a small amount to these families because they're struggling. And we're all struggling. And it's eye-opening to know that we live in Millbrae and we think we have so much and some people have so little. So it was wonderful to be able to give a little something to some families in our district. So happy holidays to everybody. Be safe, and we'll see you in 2023.
Thank you. Karen?
think I'm pretty good. I just really wanted to wish everybody happy holidays and a happy new year. And Dennis, I did want to let you know that I'm very much looking forward to working with you as the new president. You always bring the laughs to all of our meetings, but in all seriousness, I'm really looking forward to working with you as a team. I think one of the things that makes this board super special is how we work together and how we're always respectful toward each other. And I'm really looking forward to your leadership and pushing this district forward to do what's best for our kids and emerging from the pandemic even stronger than ever.
Thank you, Karen. I prefer to think of it as a regime, but if you want leadership, that's okay. I just have one thing. I was able to go back into the classroom recently and read to the fourth graders at Lamita Park. I did it on Zoom for a while during the COVID thing, but that wasn't as personal. And today I walked in and I got my Christmas letters from the kids. And I don't know if you can all see this, but this is just an example of the wonderful things they say, not only about Christmas and thank you for coming, but how they really enjoy the books. And I think that one of our many, many deficiencies as a culture is we don't have people reading much anymore. And one little girl said that she goes home every Thursday night and tells her parents what she read, what Mr. Fama read. So it's a push for more volunteers to come out. And for me, it's 45 minutes a week to go out and get this kind of return. What kind of job gives you that? So I want you to all think about that. I remember one time when I first was on the board and I was reading, I was in Tanforan, and I'm walking down the mall, and I see this little boy and his mother down at the end, and all of a sudden he comes running. He goes, "Mr. Fama!" And he says, Mom, this is Mr. Fama, and I thought I needed like Secret Service around me or something because I was so important to him. But we don't know what an impression we make on our children, not just professionally, but just having another adult say, I care about you. I want to know about you. So that's a pitch for volunteerism. I'd like to thank my board for welcoming me here as the president. We're going to have a good ride this year, I guarantee that. And with that, I'll be quiet. So that's the end of trustee communications. The next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Lynn moves. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we come to district business. Number one is approval of the 2023 school calendar. Deborah, would you like to lead us with this?
President Faber, may I make a request that we go to number 4 first?
Oh.
We do have Brian in the audience in case there are any questions. So I'd like to be able to.
Sure. Is it okay with the board? We move that? Okay. Okay, so item number 4 is approval of agreement with Studio W Architects regarding the Taylor parking lot.
Okay, thank you, President Faber. This is a recommendation to approve the contract to work with Studio W and Brian as our architect. You may know that we've brought to the board just preliminary plans that were just an opportunity to introduce the architectural firm. This approval is not approving those plans. It is not approving the dollar amount for the parking lot. It simply is approving the contract with Studio W so that we can start the work in then bringing back for discussion what the board would like to see more robustly or less robustly in those plans, and making decisions about that Taylor parking lot moving forward. So again, this approval is for our contract with Studio W. It is not for the first set of the first, I guess, plans, right, that we put in front of you. Okay. And I know Brian's here to answer any questions that you may have. And this is Brian Whitmore from Studio W, our architect, hopefully.
Welcome,
Very good to see you all in person this time.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Give them a microphone.
So you'll need to take a motion and then
Discussion.
a second, and then we can do discussion if there are any questions.
Move to approve?
have a second? I'll second it. Second by Karen. Any discussion? I guess we'll have that after we hear the presentation, or take it up?
Brian's with us to answer any questions
Okay.
you may have during discussion.
Yeah, I do not have a formal presentation this evening. It's really, I believe you have the contract and the fee proposal as part of your board
Right.
packet this
So
evening.
first and second, all those in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, discussion, I'm sorry.
So I do have a question. I know that, you know, the plan that we were first presented was really beautiful, but a little pricey. A little bit, I mean, you know, in a perfect world, wow, we'd love it. But in the interim that we don't have the funds, or we want funds to go a little bit elsewhere, not all there, is there a way where we could dial it down a little bit and just take a look at a dialed down plan, and then one maybe be underneath that, maybe an A, B, C?
Yes.
So we could really make a good decision
Absolutely.
on what's prudent for us?
Yeah, and I think if you recall my presentation from the last time, the mechanism in which we would do that would be some sort of alternate plans. In other words, you know, what you see before you this evening, we had to start somewhere. So we sort of started with the vision, recognizing that, of course, you're having to fund this without the bond in place. I know you're hopefully looking at a couple more years to maybe resume, you know, the bond measure idea. But what we base our fees off of is really the cost of construction ultimately. It's an Office of Public School Construction sliding scale. And I think you recall we mentioned that the cost estimates that were put together from our professional cost estimator at this point are very conservative. You know, we want to be more conservative than more aggressive because we really want to kind of paint the full picture of what the potential there can be. So we based our contract off of that amount. Ultimately, you would compensate us for what ultimately gets built. And I think the goal is to initiate the process with saying we want to document as much as we can to try to get the basis of that cost refined and really understand what the costs are there. But then be able to agency approve in such a way that you have a number of alternates that you can take. And so depending on how much you want to spend ultimately in construction, which is the big part of the cost of this project, of course, you can decide where to go based on that.
Yeah, my other question is,
Okay, I'm sorry, if I may. The plans you saw in front of you were iterations of many times, Brian and I going back and forth. The first set of plans he presented was a more basic set of plans, and when I looked at the project in whole, I looked at the school, I looked at the needs, and I looked at what the potential was. Brian and I had several conversations of where this could go, and so I kept asking, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we add that? Because in my mind, putting all of that together now and getting it in one plan makes the most sense, because we don't have to go back and redo something again because we didn't think of the future. So by asking for the entire plan and that package you see in front of you, it is really what we think is the ultimate plan. And then obviously, like Brian said, depending on the budget, depending on the decisions, we can scale back, but at least we have a set of plans and a blueprint to move forward in different phases if we can't afford everything at one time.
yeah, that was my concern. And my other concern is the more time that we deliberate and decide what we want to do, how do you estimate the prices going up? Because we know that cost goes up, and the longer we wait.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. You know, unfortunately, we have not seen any sort of diminishment of costs, even in, you know, consideration of possible recession. You know, we continue to see construction escalation go up, and so our recommendation to all of our clients, all of our public school clients, is the faster that you can get to market, the more money you're going to save, and that holds true today as it did, you know, even several years ago. You know, 3 years ago, prior to the pandemic, we've probably seen 27 to 30% increase in construction costs, you know, when it comes to public school work. So it's significant. So certainly I encourage you to try and move forward as expeditiously as possible. I think we want to try and capture next summer's opportunity for construction. You may recall we talked about the idea of bringing a partnership with a contractor on board through a lease-leaseback delivery method. We spent some time talking with your legal counsel and are pleased to report that you have already taken the first step, and that is this board has passed it in the past a resolution to allow lease-leaseback as a delivery method. And so in January, we're expecting that your legal counsel will have some documents put together you can advertise and have the contractor come on probably around February or March timeframe. So that will help in this cost estimating measure. We did include escalation in the estimates that we had, which was a multi-year escalation depending on how quickly you can move forward. But certainly we'd like to try and wipe that out as much as possible. And the best way to wipe that out, obviously, is to move forward quickly.
Okay, I have a question. Yeah. So this, the picture and the whole contract is based on the full-blown, the $2.7 million, right? And so, but wouldn't it be more, and you know that because we didn't pass the bond, like you said, we're not going to be able to spend that money right now all at once. So wouldn't it be better for us to say, hey, the board, we're comfortable giving you $1 million, let's start with that stage, and instead of, and this way the numbers won't look so like, too much. Like, I feel like when I'm approving 2.7 million, it's like, makes me uncomfortable because I know we can't afford it. And so wouldn't it be better for you to say, the board can say, hey, start with $1 million, give us plans, give us a contract based on $1 million project, and then we do have an ideal, you're drawing an ideal where we want to be, and then we can just add on based on what we have available in terms of funds. Because I feel, and I know what you're, I know that just because we approve this doesn't mean we're going to go spend $2.7 million, but just to be on the conservative side, and you don't know what the future holds with the bond in the next few years. So just my thoughts.
Really, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No. I mean, it would have been nice to focus on the parking lot itself, because that was the original plan. The outdoor space and all the extra stuff, it's beautiful to have, we'd love to have, but I just don't think right now we can, financially is doable for us. So.
Yeah, so really what we're asking for your approval here this evening is the basis of the contract, which is really that the basis is on a percentage of the construction cost. And you can decide ultimately how much of a construction cost you want to set as a budget moving forward. I think when we talked previously, we had identified some alternates there, and we said, roughly speaking, that sort of the base project, which would include the parking lot improvements and the drop-off and really all of the safety and security measures there, not including some of the improvements that continued up the campus, and then some of the outdoor learning environments and those sorts of things, is probably about, and again, it's our best guess at this point, maybe about half of that total amount in construction, maybe 1.3, somewhere in that ballpark. We can certainly set that as a starting point and can base our fees based on that and really work towards that as an element. Or you can decide, we want to document all of it so that we have good cost estimating. We can even bid that through the contractor and then ultimately say, you know what, we want to parse that out and not move forward. The one luxury you do have is when you go through the Department of the State Architect, you have up to 4 years to build anything that's approved within that DSA approval. And that gives you some flexibility, as I mentioned before, if the district should decide in the future to pursue a bond and have more funds, you already have that approval, and that allows you to hit the ground running a little bit sooner because you're shovel ready at that point, even if today you only decide to do, say, half of the construction work.
I just wanted to mention that tonight we're approving $274,000. That's the amount. So can you clarify? It says
that would be if you were to decide that the budget was the full budget of the project.
So what are we approving tonight?
What you're approving tonight, that doesn't work. You can tell me.
What you're approving tonight is the agreement to work with Studio W and Brian in this project. And so he would be the one to help to decide the scope of the project and the ultimate cost of the project. And his fee schedule will be based on the ultimate project result. So if it's decided we scale it back, the fees get scaled back as well. So you're just approving the partnership with Studio W and having him take us through this project and his expertise to help us decide exactly what the vision is and what the end goal will be for the project.
I think that's really a perfect clarification. The other thing is, I think at our last meeting when we were discussing the format, this grid does not show, I think I asked for a field trip to go to Taylor, and to walk the area so that we knew exactly what we were looking at. We know the outdoor spaces, but to approve, and so I'm glad to know that we can modify this, and I totally agree with Trustee Musa in that baby steps are always better for me going forward, rather than jumping into one huge format that I really cannot discern with this.
Absolutely, and I'd love to take you on a field trip. Just let's schedule something, come by. I'd love to, because we talk about this entire project. One of the things I saw was, yeah, we needed the parking lot, we needed the safety aspect, and that's the major part. But then as I walk the site, I see that we have a failing retaining wall. And so that outdoor amphitheater where you see, that is where our retaining wall is failing. So instead of redoing it later, or we're going to have to redo it at some point, that's why we built in the plans to have that redone and have it a usable space, not just a retaining wall, but also a learning space and a place for students to gather, a place for teachers to teach, a place where we can have an outdoor learning environment as well. So that's why that got added on, and that wasn't originally part of the first design I asked them to prepare for us. And so that's why I kind of built, and you see that major project in front of you.
Yeah, just real quick to follow up on that as well. This is really the beginning. So, the conceptual design that we presented before, and of course the conceptual estimate that goes with it's really a starting point. The heavy lifting of the design effort would move forward, assuming you approve tonight, so that we can really fine tune and sort of identify that. So yeah, certainly we would be working with you, the board, the administration, the site group, hopefully a committee of individuals, site principal and others that have stake in this, and come up with something that really works for them. But we have to start somewhere. And so this is the basis of that. And again, the contract amount was really based on the worst case scenario in this particular case, knowing that it's a formula we plug in based on the contract elements, the actual cost of construction, and then that, of course, spits out the fee that's associated with that.
The question that I have is, are you able to itemize all the items in the plan, so in case we want to eliminate something, we see the cost of it when we're looking at the budget? Because when we did the Carolyn Shea Center, we were at $21 million. We had $12 million. So we had to take the air conditioning out, we had to take signs out, we had to take lighting out, the stage. We removed all these things and we got it down to $12 million, and that was affordable to us. So are we able to do that with this?
Exactly. That's the goal here, is that, right now we just have that one image that we provided to our cost estimators to sort of give us an idea of what we think the cost is going to be. There's going to be more detailed plans that come together. And that's why I also encourage the fact of bringing that contractor on board early, because they're going to be the ones that can tell us, this is what we think it's going to cost, and here are some recommendations to where we think we can value engineer the project to align with your budget better. So that's the goal. Certainly is sort of, and I think coming out of this, assuming you approve, is that your administration, ourselves, our team will talk about what do we want to set the basis of design, that base budget, move forward. Again, we want to have some alternates in there. If construction costs, for whatever reason, begin to come down, begin to soften, and you can't afford more, you have the luxury of being able to do that. Versus, obviously, if things continue to escalate, perhaps they escalate more than we anticipate, you have some flexibility to bring that back down to where you want to be.
My last question, I promise, it is for our CBO, Ralph. We talked about this before with other issues, but my question is, if we do pass a bond, can we shift the money from the bond over to the cost of the parking lot?
The answer to that is not just a yes or no. It kind of depends on timing. It depends on where we are in the project. And so, yes, we may be able to shift some of that over. So it's a more complicated answer than just yes or no. There's a couple of factors that determine that. But yes, we'll be able to shift some of those costs depending on the timing.
Doable?
Yes, doable.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. So when we're approving this contract, and say we determine that we can only afford $1.5 million, let's just say, are we basically committing to the 12% of that construction cost?
No, it's a
Looking at the
sliding
schedule?
scale. So in effect, as the construction cost goes up, the percentage actually comes down. And the formula, I believe, is in there, correct? So it starts at 12% and then it slides down from that point depending on the actual cost of construction.
But I think the contract amount is $5 million at 12%, right? So anything less than 5 million is 12%. Am I reading that right?
I think it's five. I think is it 5 million or the first 500,000?
It says 5 million.
Okay,
Is
let
it-
me take a look and just double check. Okay, yeah, first 5 million, you're correct, and then next 1 million, and so forth. Yeah, up to. So yes, so in effect, the percentage remains the same, but because you're not going beyond the $5 million mark, but in effect, you know, 1.5 million at 12% versus 2.5 million at 12% is going to generate a different fee.
Okay, so when we're approving the contract with the compensation in Exhibit A, we're not approving, as to Lynn's point, the 274,000. We're just approving this compensation schedule, which would be 12% of our construction costs, assuming we're under 5 million, which I think we're all agreeing.
Yes.
We're not going to go above that, hopefully.
Exactly.
So if it's 1.5 or 2.5 or
Right.
1, it's always just going to be 12%.
Correct. So, and again, this is you know the Office of Public School Construction's base formula. But again, that 2.765 million, that was what we plugged in that then generates, you know, the $274,000. We credited the concept design fee for the effort that we've done thus far. If that 2.765 is 1.5 million, let's say, obviously that $304,000 number is going to come down, and then you would discount the $29,000 and change. So that number would come
Okay,
down.
got it.
But yeah.
Okay,
And
understood.
it's a little bit different. It's new construction, it's a different percentage than modernization. This, in case, is a modernization project, so the percentages tend to be a little higher.
Okay.
Anything further?
Yeah, I just want to make a recommendation for our CBO, Ralph. I know you've been working hard on this with the studio, but for me, like Lynn said, I would love to do a walkthrough with you, and specifically with the maintenance guys, like Raul and Rudy, that's been in the district for a long time, and they know this parking lot by heart. And they probably have some great ideas that they might be able to recommend for us how to maybe tweak it a little bit based on their experience over the years of seeing many different things that are happening. So with the walkthrough, I'd like to get our maintenance guys to kind of get their input in there, because I think they would probably, their thoughts would be very valuable for us.
Absolutely, and they were instrumental in the development of this. So I took a walk with both of them in this parking lot prior to seeing any designs, prior to talking to Brian.
Yeah.
And so they were instrumental from the beginning, and they were included in each of the phases of the project and each of the iterations that Brian had presented to me before we came up with this final version that you see in front of you now. So they've already been heavily involved, and they will continue to be heavily involved in all of this work that we're doing for our facilities.
Okay, so one more question. And because of time, it's really important. The sooner we approve this, the less it will cost us. So again, when do you think you'll have our options A, B, and C? And I'm hoping you'll have a cost numbers next to what.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that if this gets approved tonight, that probably by about March timeframe, we will have enough design effort there. Again, hopefully bringing on a contractor through that leaseback, that we have them as a partner, we can make a decision of what we think we want to move forward with. Because we have, you know, there's several different phases. We sort of have the schematic design phase where we're coming up with the ideas, again, a little bit more detailed than what we show here conceptually. Then we have a design development phase where we're developing that along with our consultants, so our civil engineer and landscape and so forth. And then we will have the construction document phase. And really before we go into construction documents, which is that last piece before we go out to bid with the subcontractors, we want to make sure that, you know, we've got that set up appropriately so that it aligns with the budget. So I would imagine by about that time frame, certainly before this upcoming summer, we will have some idea of what we think you can afford based on your appetite to move forward. And like I said, hopefully we package that in such a way that you can sort of almost like a menu be able to say, yes, we want to move forward. This is sort of the base design. And if we want to embellish that and enhance that with some of these other things, we can do that. And like I said, you may also decide that ultimately you want to at least get all of it agency approved so that you have it there and in the event of a bond. And I would say it's, it's, in response to Ralph's comments about the bond, it really comes back down to your bond language ultimately in the future if you want to include this as part of that. But certainly this is facilities work, and that's what bonds pay for, and so it makes sense that that bond could pay for any work that's left undone, that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to afford.
I do want to add, if I may, with all due respect to Brian said spot on, I just want to remind the board that we will be having discussion around this and receiving direction from the board on the price cap and what items we want to see in the parking lot, maybe some of the exterior items as well. We do have some pieces like Ralph was speaking about. We have a retaining wall that's falling. How do we want to invest that money? Do we want to just put up another retaining wall? Do we want to do an outdoor learning space? So that will come, that you will give that direction, and then we will provide updated plans based on that direction. So that direction will come from the board in January, and we'll be working very closely with Brian. Again, it just for the purposes, I think it's really important to remember that if, as Brian said, if we wanted to just shoot for the moon and not necessarily build the moon, we at least can get it approved so that when we go through DSA, we're not going back to DSA every time we try to make those plans more robust. We really want to just, whatever we envision maybe for a year or 2 or 6 years out, we want to approve those plans and then potentially build in increments or just stop when we see fit. So, but again, most importantly, that direction will come from the board in January so that we can begin to move forward.
Yeah, I know Brian is the expert in this, but when it comes to DSA, if we have the entire package and the entire, like Debbie said, the shooting for the moon, then we know there's no issues moving forward with any DSA. Because if we put a piece together and then we get DSA approved and we didn't get the second half DSA approved, DSA might come back and say, we need to change something about that first project. So putting it all together and having the entire scope is important in that aspect, that you see DSA and they see the entire project, and then we move forward.
A question real quick. So if we vote on that at that higher amount, could we reduce it?
You're not voting on the amount tonight at all?
No. I'm not talking about tonight. I'm talking,
Like next time you give direction.
the plan, the whole plan. If we vote, yeah.
We will continue to provide the plans as if we are being the most robust as possible, and then the board will make decisions on segmenting out the plans.
Okay.
And then make the decisions on the price cap, on the expenditure.
Okay, perfect. But it's all approved, which is what we want to do. Okay, got it.
Our hope tonight is to approve the contract so that we can pay Brian to get to work. Because he's done some work for us to support. And obviously we were very hopeful about the bond, and much of what you're seeing before you was anticipation that a bond would pass and we could build the moon. And we know now that we need to come back off that a little bit.
Yeah, one thing I would add is, the investment that you're making, you probably heard us talk a little bit before about construction hard costs, which is the bulk, 75% really of the total project cost, and then the soft costs, which is, partly our costs, DSA's fees, testing, inspection, those sorts of things. That investment of being able to make, just for example, if you were to allow us to document even $2.7 million and have that actually DSA approved, even if you only go to construction of, say, $1.5 million, it's a very incremental piece of the soft costs that you're actually spending to get all of that approved and have that locked in so that, again, if funding does come available, you can move forward versus having to go back and have a DSA approval for each step, because we have to then recreate a lot of steps along with that. So there's some value in packaging all as one as opposed to sort of these little pieces as you move forward. So something to consider. We'll take whatever direction, but know that the armature is there so that ultimately you have the ability to say, if we want to spend $1.5 million and that's all we want to design, that's all we want to document, then we can do that. Normally what we do is, we have to have a starting point for our invoicing and so forth. At the point when we actually bid the project and we know unequivocally how much you're going to spend in construction, we'll do a reconciliation. It might be up or down of that amount, and then we do a final reconciliation at the end once we know, how much contingency or any of those things are actually spent. So that's typically how that works.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we have motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks very much.
On these, may I ask that you take roll call?
Okay, sure.
Before we end the discussion, I'm sorry. I totally want to approve this, but with a couple of, I'd like to know by, you said something about March, how you
Yeah.
can itemize the different sections. So that would be one thing that I would love to have. Another thing is for our CBO is to organize a time when we can all walk through. I'm not going to, when we can all walk through, and see the portions that we're going to be looking at. So those are the only two things that I'd like to see happen.
Yeah, so I would recommend that if you have the time following the holidays in January, if we can do that walkthrough, the sooner the better.
Okay.
Because that gives us more information that we can work off of. Like I said, right around March timeframe, I think we'll have enough information. We can come back and present to the board kind of where we're at in terms of what we see the costs. Hopefully have our contracting partner on board at the same time that can give us some sense of where things are going. And then probably about May timeframe is when we hope we're going to bring back those construction contracts, and then you have the ability to decide unequivocally, yes, we're going to move forward at this cost. So you're probably going to have several steps along the way there that we'll anticipate moving forward. But we have to move quickly because we are trying to capture this summer window. If we don't, then we move to the following summer, presumably, and then incur that potential for construction escalation in between, and we're trying to avoid that as much as we can.
I'm available any day.
So,
Yeah,
the purposes of planning, Brian, I think it's beneficial that you be there at
Yeah.
the walk.
Sure.
So I would like to recommend that January 17th board meeting, if in fact you approve your calendar tonight, that we have a board workshop prior that's on facilities, so that all 5 of you can walk at the same time. Otherwise, we'd have to break you up and walk you 2
Brown
to
act.
1. So, because eventually
Like
this
the
is
Brown
something
Act,
to
yeah.
vote on. So, I think that would work out nicely because we plan to have the discussion item on the January 17th board agenda. So you will have had opportunity with Brian that day to do the walk, and then you'll see it again for discussion that night. Okay?
So Debbie, you'll check with all the board members on a calendar date? Great.
She just said the 17th.
17th. January 17th.
Before, I thought you said before the 17th.
No, actually, we have a meeting that night, so I would agendize a board workshop before the meeting.
Oh, before the meeting.
All together.
You can do the walk all together, otherwise I have to break you up 2 to 1.
Okay,
Do it all together.
okay.
And that way you're all together to hear your questions and ideas and thoughts
Perfect.
and share with one another.
Got it.
And then we'll have Brian or one of your colleagues there.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
That should work.
Agreeable to everyone? Okay. Now we need to take a roll call vote. Start with Maggie.
Aye.
Maggie, aye. Lynn?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Aye.
Sharon? Dennis, yes. So I guess the motion carries. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, and it's been a pleasure working with Brian so far, and I'm pleased it went in this direction because I'm looking forward to continuing our partnership, and he's been great throughout this whole process. So I appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to continuing working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Okay.
Thank you for the flexibility in moving that. We go back to 1.
All right, so on the under district business, we go back to 1, approval of the 23-24 school calendar.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I have a working mic now. Thank you, President Fema. Before you, you have the school calendar for the 23-24 school year. And before I kind of speak to the specifics of it, I would like to take a moment to thank our calendar committee and our partners, our MEA and our CSEA partners. And I know that historically calendars have been brought a little bit late to the board for approval. And we've made a commitment to be approving our calendars at least 1 year out. And so we're really excited about this work. The calendar that you see before you is aligned with as much as possible with San Mateo High School District, Union High School District. So the calendar, we start 1 day later than they do. And our winter recess, our spring recess are the same. And we were even able to align some of our non-student days so that one of the conversations that we had with our calendar committee was we wanted to ensure that we are being as friendly to our families as possible, because it's not always easy when you have a high school student out of school and an elementary student in school, or vice versa. And so we've done, the calendar committee has done a fantastic job of working really hard to align it as closely as possible. So we have before you the calendar for the 23-24 school year for your consideration and approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve?
Maggie, second? Second, Karen. Discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the approval of the 23 Board of Trustee meeting schedule. Superintendent French.
Yes, thank you, President Fema. We have the regular board meeting schedule for the 2023 year. I do want to call to the attention of the board that we did, in December of next year, we did place that meeting on the Thursday night so that there would be no conflict with City Council reorg meeting. And also we just simply follow a pattern of when our board meetings have happened in the past. I do want to just state that I know that January 3rd is our first day back from the winter recess. However, we will have the agenda prepared and posted. We build our agendas about a week or two ahead of time, unless there are any other items. That will be a relatively light meeting. But it will be important as we will be sharing our our parcel tax survey polling results. So, again, this is the schedule as following our typical schedule with the exception of December of next year.
Okay, and that's a televised?
It will be televised, yes, next year.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Frank, second? I'll second. Karen, second. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just had a comment. I think we only televise every other meeting, but I just wanted to kind of raise the question about potentially televising or putting on streaming the other meetings. I think from a transparency point of view, it would be nice to have that. And I'd like to just make that comment.
That would be a board decision. The board has made the decision to not stream the second board meeting of the month. However, there is, obviously MCTV is here with us tonight for the first board meeting of the month. So that would actually have to be a board action to begin coming back to streaming. I don't know that we would have a lot of success with MCTV because I know in alternate weeks they're with the city council, so they're occupied. You would make the vote would have to be to go, and you can't take that vote tonight. We'd have to agendize that, but it would be to either put it on we would have to put it on our YouTube channel, stream it live on the YouTube channel. Correct, Jeff? Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we should agendize it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's worth of a discussion.
Okay.
I think we can bring it back in January and discuss and how we move forward from.
Should we put it on future agenda item?
Future agenda item.
We can just note it now. We'll just, we can certainly agendize it for discussion on January 3rd.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay?
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Where am I?
So we'll need a roll call on your calendar.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So we have a roll call vote on the calendar. Maggie?
Aye.
Lynn is aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Dennis? Aye. Motion carries. Okay. And I've lost my way here.
Here's the agenda. On. We did this?
We did four, I think we go back. Okay, yes. Okay, so the next item is the approval of the agreement with Konica Minolta.
Yes, that's an item I will be addressing. So we are currently under contract with another company that was a 5-year lease that will be up in February of 2023. And so Jeff has done a phenomenal job working with various vendors. So we put out to bid, and we had 3 companies to submit bids for the lease of new copiers and servicing of our printers that are on site. And so all the work Jeff did, working with them, taking them around, visiting them, and they created bids. And so we came up with a final product that I think teachers and staff will be pleased with. Currently, you have one copier, one multifunctional copier at each site. And this new lease proposes to put 2 copiers at each site, where one is a full color copier and one is a multifunctional copier. So teachers will have the ability to send the copies directly to the copiers from their room, and then it won't print right away. There's a feature where the copies will be waiting for them. They'll punch in their code, and then when they're sitting in front of the machine, that's when they'll receive the copies from the machine. This agreement also services all of our existing printers that are on site as well. And so we think that it provides more options, it provides more flexibility, and it provides every site with a full color copier, which they do not currently have. And it is at a reduced cost to the district. The entire lease reduces the district cost on a monthly basis. We are going with a different company, but this is a company we feel met the needs and will have the best service for the district moving forward.
No, it is. We are excited. It's a significant savings. So it's $13,000 annually that we're saving, and we'll be able to provide more services than we have now.
Perfect. Any questions?
Win-win.
Teachers will love it.
Okay, I'll take a motion on approval.
So moved.
Frank, second?
Second.
Second, Lynn. Discussion? All those in favor? Huh? Oh, roll call, everything roll call?
Everything that's an action item.
Oh. I need to go back to school. Okay. Maggie, would you start off?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Frank?
Aye.
Aye.
Dennis, aye. Motion carries. Okay. We did the approval. So now we go to the first interim report. So we'll turn it over to Ralph.
I know.
Yes, thank you. But before we begin, I just want to acknowledge the work that Claudia has put in. Claudia Derillo is our supervisor of business services, and so yes, please, round of applause. She put a tremendous amount of work. This first interim report was not an easy task because this year we went through, this is our 3rd supervisor of business services in the time that I've been here. And so Claudia had to look at all the work that's been done in the past. The prior supervisor of business services was only here a short amount of time. And so when you have a transition, it's difficult to know the history. It's not easy to understand what some of the numbers are, but she did a great job getting to know the district, getting to the numbers, and diving into that history. So again, this wouldn't be here without the work of Claudia. I can't thank her enough for that effort. So let's see here, clicking through. So the overview of this presentation, you have it in front of you as well, so you can take notes and we can answer any questions. I will try and be brief. I will go over the major points and hopefully answer all of your questions. If not, we can definitely address them later. So this is the overview, right? General fund assumptions, general fund revenue and expenditures, general fund multi-year projections, next steps. And so the budget cycle is in front of you, and you can see when the first interim is, when we're going to get to a second interim, and all that. And I just have to say that there are 3 outcomes when we look at our interim budget, and it's a certification. It's either a positive certification, which meets financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years. It's a qualified, which is not as good, may not be able to meet financial obligations or current or 2 fiscal subsequent years. And then a negative qualification will be unable to meet its fiscal obligations as a district for current and 2 subsequent years. So I added a little bit of color, as you can see. So here's the assumptions that we get from the the dashboard, School Services California. These are the assumptions all school districts base budget adoption, first interim, and any adjustments in the budget. You can see the COLA there is a 5.65, and you might hear through different sources that the COLA was 13%. Well, the LCFF COLA was 6.56%, and then an additional 6.7% was invested into the LCFF. So those two added together are where people come up with a 13% COLA. But the original COLA that we're going on is a 5.65%. And you can see some of the other adjustments there and assumptions. One to note is the increase in STIRS and PERS. Those were large increases this year that we did not have in prior years. And so that had an impact on budget as well. And you can see the lottery, you can see the different various sources there. And we try and move on to the next slide. Mouse click. Mouse click.
Yeah, did you see that?
There it is. So this is a slide that shows our district enrollment per fall CalPADS reports. And you can, I just like this because it's a visual of where we are as a district as far as enrollment at each of the sites. Barring Green Hills, you see a decline in enrollment in the other schools. Our kindergarten class was not as large this year as it was in the past. There are some variables out there that we just are hard to predict, especially coming back from COVID. So in January, I'll give you a preview, we'll be asking you to approve a demographic study because we can predict enrollment, we can predict the future enrollment, but we have new developments happening. And so I think getting an expert in and looking at what that might be is something that we're going to explore. I'm going to be asking you to approve that in January moving forward. And then we might look at a little preview. Are our attendance boundaries still relevant? So that's just a little preview of the demographic study and work that's going to be coming up. We look at first the revenue sources. As you can see from here, you have your unrestricted and restricted, and the total LCFF sources comes to 24 million. And then you can see where the federal revenue, state revenue, and there's a large sum there for the state because of some of the grants we've had come since unaudited actuals. And then you see the total revenue of 35.7 million is where our total revenue line is at first interim. Our expenditures, you can see these here. You have certificated salaries, classified salaries, and all the typical expenditure line items you see in the past. And the one to note is really just, it's a $33.5 million expenditure line. These are the slides that probably mean a little bit more when we look at comparisons where we started at adopted budget and where we are now at first interim, and then the difference, right? So the LCFF revenue, the difference really is when the legislative bill was passed to go to a 3-year rolling average to avoid some of the sharp declines and decreases in revenue based on the enrollment decline. So that's why that adopted budget is 23.1 and the first interim is 24.4. If we didn't have that 3-year rolling average, then we would still be looking at a $23 million revenue line. So that helped us out a lot since we're in a declining enrollment state. You see the federal revenue is a negative, and that was just some of the main one was the special education. There was not as much special education funding that was allotted to us. That's one of the line items there that made a difference. The state revenue, you can see, is a large $3.9 million increase. And I referenced that earlier. That was due to the one-time grants that were awarded and decided after unaudited actuals. So you're looking at the Emergency Learning Recovery Block Grant, and you're looking at the Arts and Music Block Grant that make up the majority of that increase for the state. The local revenue is a combination of a few different things. That's MEF, so their revenue was higher than expected or budgeted. And then you have local donations. You also have, coming out of COVID, we weren't sure what was going to happen with facility rentals. So we were very conservative in our estimates for facility rentals, and so that's why it's a little bit higher at first interim, because we did see some of the organizations that typically rented our facilities come back and rent our facilities again. So that's why that line item was a little bit higher. We look at expenditures. Certificated salaries is up a little bit because we were able to fill some of the vacancies that we've had. Classified salaries is a pretty large, according, with our budget and with the number of employees we have, a negative $266,000 decrease from adopted budget. That's because we had several vacancies in that area, and that got shifted over to the other services and operating costs in the form of contracts. Because when we have a paraprofessional that we can't hire to be one of our employees, we turn to contracts. And so that's where you see the difference, the negative on the classified salaries line, and then the increase in the services and other operations line. So that's why you have that, not really balanced out, but that's why there's an increase on that other line item. The rest of that increase is because of the one-time block grants and the partnerships we've had and the expenditures due to spending of those dollars, expected spending of those dollars. We can move right along, I think. Did it go? No, click the mouse. So this is all of that information on one page. So you can see the unrestricted, restricted, and the combination where you have the revenues on top, expenditures on the bottom, and then you see at the bottom here, or expenditures in the middle, sorry, and then at the bottom you see the beginning fund balance and then the ending fund balance. And then you see how the excess is designated or planned to be spent. We have the committed funds, we have the reserve for negotiations, so we do have negotiations, and that's what we're planning, that negotiations will potentially cost us if we can settle pretty soon. And then you have the reserve for deficit spending for the next 2 years out, and then you have the required 3% reserve, and then we have an undesignated reserve of $419,000, which this is just estimates. So at second interim, we'll be able to adjust that amount more to determine where we are with our reserves and where we are with our expenditure lines. This one is a very busy slide, but this is the multi-year projection where you see the highlighted line is where you see the deficit spending. And this, as you see at the bottom, we've reserved out the 2.9, but it's not incorporated into the out years as far as any negotiated settlement. It's not incorporated into the salaries yet, so that's why it's down below. But once it gets incorporated into the salaries, you'll see more of a negative and more of a deficit spending once we have that incorporated into the accounting. Here's a summary of our other funds, more restricted funds. You have your student activities account. That's mainly at Taylor, $121,000. You have your Fund 13. That's your cafeteria, your food services, and that's what runs that. It's pretty much a self-sufficient department at this point. There's not a contribution from the general fund, so I think our Child Nutrition Services Department is doing an excellent job with the purchases and with the providing the meals and also with the budgeting. So I think that's a self-sufficient program there. Capital outlay, that's Fund 17. That's restricted funding for specific projects. We took some technology funding out of that, and we've had adoptions out of that in the past. Foundation is your MEF funding, and so that's restricted dollars there as to where that goes. Then you have your special reserve for post-employment benefits. Your capital facilities, your Fund 25, that is your developer fees. And so those are restricted as to how we can use those, and they have to be used to improve campuses and the ability to serve students where we have large developments. So when we see these large developments coming in, we have to make sure we're utilizing those dollars in the schools that are the most impacted by the new developments and the new students coming in from each of those developments. And then you have the Fund 40, that's your capital outlay, and that was the fund from the sale of property. And that's where, we would be looking to fund things like the Taylor project, Taylor parking lot project, and other projects when we don't have a bond. That's where we take some of those funds from. So next steps, you see here, we have the audit report. That will be coming to you in January. The auditors are completing that audit. They're anticipated to complete that audit January 12th. And again, that was, I think, Claudie for that work as well, because the auditors work really closely with her. And she had to ask a lot of questions and do a lot of digging because she didn't know the history from the beginning of the school year. And some of the auditors were asking her things when she wasn't even employed yet. So she did a great job tracking all that down and making sure she had all the answers and getting the auditors everything they needed. And then you see the state, governor's state budget gets released in January, and then we have the second interim in March, where a lot of these numbers will end up changing. So based on the information you see in front of us, or on the report, I forgot to change that. That's a typo. Look at that. The district recommends that we have a positive certification for this first interim report. And that's where we leave it to any questions.
Okay, we need a motion.
We need a motion, second, and then you can ask.
Okay. Motion to approve the interim report?
Second?
No, first.
Oh, I thought I thought you made them.
Second.
Confused.
Frank is first.
Yeah.
Second.
I'll make the motion.
Discussion.
That's you.
Is there any discussion? Karen?
I just had a question. I know that a lot of work went into this, so thank you, Claudie. Thank you, Ralph, and whoever else worked on it, because I know this a lot of work. One of the things that I noticed was that the professional consulting services and operating expenditures went up pretty dramatically, from 2.28 million to 5.37 million. And we've only spent 575. So that's a lot of spending from now until the end of the year. What is sort of projected, or is that padded?
Is the question what is projected, or?
What is the breakdown of what's actually projected, or is that padded?
No, that's actually what is projected based on the contracts we have with not only the paraprofessionals, but some of the counselors we had to contract with, some of the other services and difficult to fill positions that we had to go out with contracts. So that's based on the contract amount from now until the end of the year. And another line item there is our ELOT money. So we had to account for bringing in a third-party vendor to provide after-school services for our students using the ELOT money. And we're increasing that spending by $400,000 because we have to spend that money before June 30th, and that's a requirement, and that is restricted funding. So a lot of this is on the restricted side of how we're partnering with people to come in and help with after-school programs, auxiliary programs, and so that is what's projected to be spent by the end of the year. Claudia, am I missing anything? Got you. So the 400,000 was from this school year, but then the additional amount that was awarded to us, well, that was from prior allotments. So the additional allotment made 1.7 million. So that's why that's at 1.7 instead of the 400 I said. So it's even more than I thought.
I do think, if I may on that, one of the things that for the board's just information is that anytime you see an influx of one-time dollars where they're very restricted, as Ralph was talking about, like in our ELOB, in our ESSER funds, in our art and music, you're going to see an increase in contracted services because those funds are being spent to execute the dollars. So we're either book those funds because we know that they will be spent in the future. So we've included them in the first interim, and we've booked them based upon the dates that they need to be expended according to the restrictions of the monies. So anywhere between 2021, right, COVID, to 2025. So that's a large portion of those increases, and then the other component of it is what we spoke to here. We saw a reduction in our salaries for classified, but a huge increase in this area because of the contracted service fees for counselors, mental health providers, our paras, all across our classified.
It also includes bringing consultants and guest speakers that we are doing for some of our professional development, especially for our professional learning communities. So anybody coming in to speak to our teachers and work with our teachers, that's also included in that line item.
It's just a big number because it's 4.8 million that we'd have to spend between now and the end of the year.
And teacher effectiveness is a great example of this. Like that money came to us, and it's extremely, extremely restricted. It can be spent, like we're talking about PLCs, that's a large amount of money, but it has to go to improving teacher performance. So it's training for teachers. So that's why, you'll continue to see those larger amounts until all of those dollars are expended.
Okay.
And educator effectiveness is also a plan that you'll be seeing later. It's a requirement that we bring that plan to you for approval whenever we have a change of plans and how we're going to spend it. And so that's what you're going to see later on.
All right, perfect. It's just such a big number that I think it would be worthwhile to maybe break it down and sort of see what all the detail is of that, because, you know, it's one of the biggest numbers on this page as one bucket item. You know, so that just might be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely look to provide you with more details on that line item.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, can you just, oh, sorry. Oh, the ELOP, can you, for everybody listening, what that stands for, the acronym for?
Extended Learning Opportunities Program, not to be confused with the Extended Learning Opportunities Grant Program.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just needed that to be clarified.
Absolutely, thank you. And there are there are really strict guidelines as to how we spend that money. And then when we do bring in a third party, there are really strict guidelines on the reporting and how those services are used. It's really similar to our ACES program, After School Safety and Education Supplement. Is that right? I don't know what the S is. Something like that. But it's really similar to that, where we have strict attendance policies, reporting policies. They have to be there for a certain amount of time, and they have to have some really stringent policies to make sure students are not only just being looked after, there's some educational benefit, and there's some intervention, and then there's also some social emotional learning that happens in these after school programs as well. And then in January 3rd, you're going to be seeing a contract from a third party vendor, a little preview there too, that we are going to be contracting. They'll start January 9th if you approve that on the 3rd, and I think that's going to be a really robust program for 2 of our schools.
Yeah, just one quick thing. Yeah, Trustee Chin mentioned about how itemizing that large amount of money is really important, because a lot of the expenditures now that you're doing to bolster the ACES program is coming out of the ELOP funds, correct?
That is correct. So the ACES money only goes so far, because that's per student allocation. And so when we look at what we have visioned for there and what we want to do, we do use ELOP, and that's allowable to use ELOP to increase and improve services in the ACES program. So that's one of the things that we did. You're absolutely correct.
Thank you. Maggie? Maggie?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to see that we have all these one-time monies, because and it helps us financially, and I'm glad we don't have to spend it like right away, because I would hate to get all this money, then we have to spend it, and then we end up spending on things that we really don't need. I guess my question is, have you heard as a CBO, like I know there's been talk about there's budget cuts coming from the state because the California with the recession, and there's going to be like billions of dollars cuts, like Don was saying earlier. And I guess my worry is this makes everything looks happy and fuzzy, that we got all this cushion and money that's here, but in reality, what is that going to translate to us in budget-wise for Millbrae in the next 2-3 years? Because when there's going to be cuts, and so hopefully with this extra money that's not being spent, that at some point when we do have cuts in some areas, that we're able to use some of this money to fill the gap. I'm just saying,
No, you make an excellent point, and that's part of the thinking and the planning that Claudia and I have. For instance, we know that the partial tax is looming out there. The expiration of that is looming. And so some of these funds will be used to get us through if it doesn't pass. So, that's where we're looking at how do we use these funds over a long period of time, like you said. So the emergency learning recovery, we're looking at using that for summer school for the next several years. And so planning that out, and at least we have it through 27. So at least we know we'll have a robust summer school program through at least 26, 27. So we're looking at, and Claudia did a great job with some of the spreadsheets she's put together on our one-time funding and a timeline and a plan. So yeah, that is exactly how we think. And I'm not sure where we're going to be. I'm hoping that all the lobbying I'm hearing from the CBOs across the state, that we can do away with ADA and move into an enrollment-based funding model, because we do lose, 4 5% of the LCFF funding when our attendance is at 96, 95%. So, the lobbying's happening. We're pushing, it feels like we're gaining ground, but at the same time, you never really know, because at the top, you never really know who else is talking to them in the other ear about what the importance is for the budget. And so I'd love to see more of an enrollment based rather than ADA based. And so the more we lobby, the more we advocate, I think we'll see better funding, but you never know, and we're planning for contingencies.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to bring out that I'm looking for it, the area where we have our MEF money and our parcel tax. So any donation, this is for the parents that are watching, that the donations that you give to the MEF, it goes into our budget. So if the $650,000 that the MEF is trying to raise, it goes into a general fund that really helps us fund a lot of programs. And our parcel tax, which is going to be expiring this year, and we are, now that we still can talk about the parcel tax because we haven't passed a resolution, just want to clarify it. So that's $600,000 difference in our budget, which if the parcel tax expires, then that's $600,000 less in our budget. So those are things that
640,000.
640,000. So, well, that's almost like an aide salary or some sort. Anyway, so again, as for parents that are watching, and those are things that we have to consider when we make a donation to the MEF, or if we are going to be asking them to approve the parcel tax or renew it. So that's just for everyone in the community to think about when they make their donations. So just want to bring that out.
Yes, well said. Thank you.
Because if we we don't pass the parcel tax or renew it, that's going to affect $640,000 in our budget. So that's going to be a huge hit for us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So one question I wanted to ask you, I know the arts and program instructional material grant is that restricted? Yeah, it's restricted funding. So I just wanted to talk to you about the music program a little bit, and I'm not sure if you're moving forward. So a few years back, with Vaughn, we put a line item for VAPA. Visuals and so part of it at that time when we were part of the music director was paying out of pocket for instruments fixing and music and repairs, or maybe they went and they were competing, and so we put a $30,000 line item for VAPA. So like our music director, now the music program is growing and there's a need of instruments and fixing and all this stuff, and I would hate to put that pressure on parents to fundraise to pay for all this stuff, where we can make sure that we have that line item and let the music teachers know that the funding is there for them to spend it. So again, we put it in there years ago. I'm not sure where it's at right now. I looked for it, I couldn't find it anywhere, but just be able to communicate it to the teachers, because they are struggling trying to fix instruments and buy music and all that stuff. So I just wanted to bring that out to you.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we are making that a priority to make sure our instruments are update and well taken care of, and new instruments as possible. I haven't heard from any of the sites that there is a huge need or there's a lack of funding for that. So I'll reach out to the principals and I'll get more information, and then Claudia and I will work to make sure that we are supporting that program appropriately.
Thank you.
It's important to know, for the board to know, that has been continuing. Last year we spent, Christina Spicker was as the principal on special assignment. She was overseeing music, and we actually invested quite a bit of money in new instruments as well as music. There was quite a deficit across the district, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Trustee Musa, on some of the instruments, not only at our elementary schools but mostly at Taylor. So they conducted a really, and I'm looking to Julie DeMaio because you were in that services at the time, but we conducted a pretty in-depth inventory of all of the instruments.
Okay.
And there were instruments that were purchased, and so I'll work with Claudia too, to make sure that is still extended through. Because
Yeah.
we have not removed that. That's still being
Still
expended
there.
Okay.
as it's needed. It's embedded somewhere in the general fund.
Yeah.
But we worked really closely with the Taylor Music Program last year,
Okay.
and all of the elementary schools as well.
Many times the teachers, the music staff does not know that fund exists.
Yes.
I would agree. We learned that last year
Yeah.
We actually, I was at 2 of the meetings, and we actually brought the music teachers together. We asked them to create an inventory of items that they needed to create a program, and our elementary teachers were really vocal about not wanting to just continue to like use the recorder, right? Like they wanted to do something more robust.
Yeah.
So we invested in the elementary program, because I know that MEF is a huge support as well.
Yeah.
But that amount of dollars, so it still exists. It's not necessarily a line item. It is embedded in the general fund, but it is a priority. Our commitment to the music staff was that we would inventory every year so that they could make decisions on what's needed in the classroom.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's great, and I don't know if you can increase the amount because the pricing of everything just went up, but I'm just saying, that I don't think the teachers know that there's funds for the stuff, so they don't. And so it would be nice to reach out to the teachers, say, hey, what can we do to help your program, improve? So, anyway, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Next is approval of revised educator effectiveness block grant.
Yeah. So we just kind of talked about this a little bit. We're bringing this back to you. It is required that we update this when new items have been included. And so the plan was recently adjusted to meet current needs of providing training to staff to create our professional learning communities across the district. You may remember that months ago in our original plan, we had pretty robust discussion around this with the board. We had Emily Feltner here to talk about this work. Sorry. And so we just are continuing with this work, but we are refining this block grant as we go so that we're constantly updating you on what the expenditures are after we're providing service to teachers, surveying teachers on what it is they'd like to see moving forward, and then making those plans and bringing them to you as a revision. So this is a revision to the already existing educator effectiveness grant.
Okay. We need approval on that? Okay. I have a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Second, Karen. Discussion? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next item is possible future agenda items.
We've notated the field trip to the Taylor parking lot on January 17th. And I would like to recommend for our newly appointed budget committee, I believe that is Trustee Chin and President Fema, that we organize a time to come together to do, to look at, from the board's perspective, when you talk about breaking down dollars and numbers, how we may do that to better provide you that information. Those reports to us are kind of second nature. They're not second nature to everyone. So we want to be able to provide them in a more palatable manner. So would love to be able to set a time to meet with our committee members to then come back to the board as a liaison to find out if that would be an appropriate way to bring you the budget.
So we can call that the Chin Fema report.
You can call it whatever you want.
CFR.
CFR.
As long as they all agree.
We also, sorry, didn't we also discuss putting in the agenda the televised meetings?
Yeah, oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, that will be agendized for January 3rd. January 3rd for that televised meeting, not televised, but streaming. And January 17th for the board workshop facilities.
Are there other items?
I would like to discuss when we're going to talk about data in greater detail as well.
No, we were supposed to meet, and then the meeting didn't happen.
Yeah, it was this month, or
Yeah.
last month.
We're supposed to
I
have
had
a
it down,
workshop
but, yeah.
about our numbers and our data, and I think you send us part of
Data
your
meeting.
update.
Yeah.
Yes, we had talked about doing that in December. There were some folks who couldn't attend, so we would like to push that back to obviously
well, we're going to have to push it back to January. I do know that there are a couple of you who have some vacations planned in January as well. So we'd like to obviously work around those, and that would be in the form of a board workshop. So it would be we can certainly do it as a standalone board workshop.
Yeah, and this could be on the same vein, but in the past, from our fiscal analyst, we've had presentations more detailed presentations on the on different budget items. And I think, going forward, we need to see, we get all the expenditures, but they're just lines. We don't know, where it's coming from, what it's specifically for. And so something more detailed would be helpful. And so that could be part of the data meeting.
Yeah, the budget committee can work on that.
The budget committee can work on that, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? So we have the approval of the adjournment. It's one of my favorite.
I move to approve to adjourn.
Second.
We have to discuss this or? Roll call, roll call.
Roll call.
Aye. Okay, I got it. Okay, thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Have a wonderful Christmas.